Hello and welcome to The Print. You are watching Health and You, and I'm Sumi Sukanya Datta. Most of you must have heard the tragic news related to the death of a teenager who was following an extreme diet plan while taking ideas online, and this was a case in Kerala. This is definitely not a new such case, and we have seen several such instances before. Yet, latest incident brings to the spotlight the very important issues of diet and nutrition, fad diets, and dangerous misconceptions around it. To discuss this crucial topic, we have with us senior clinical nutritionist Ishi Khosla and R. Bhubaneshwari, who is a dietitian and researcher with Madras Diabetes Research Foundation. Thank you so much, Ms. Khosla and Ms. Bhubaneshwari, for joining us today in the conversation. Really appreciate that you could take out time for this. So, Ms. Khosla, we'll start by asking you, what are your thoughts on the concept of dieting and how it can be approached in a healthy way?
This certainly is not a new situation that we are seeing where eating behaviors become so extreme and abnormal that it leads to something so grave. We do call these anorexia, bulimia, etc. But this is something which one needs to understand is not just a physical issue of body weight. It is a deep down issue of mental or an emotional health, rather the lack of it. There is sometimes very deep seated, deep rooted issues in people, in these individuals minds, which come from maybe the environment or within their own thought process, and that leads to extreme caloric restriction and trying to control the environment in some way or the other, which manifests in food control and leads to such situations. Having said that, the need to be thin and ultra thin can, or a distorted body image, as we call it, also is a driver of this eating behavior. And so somewhere there is, it's a combination of a psychological problem manifesting in a in a distorted eating fashion or eating behavior. And these individuals sometimes are, they are very so extreme that they're easily, you can identify them, but this process, in my opinion, does not happen overnight. So the family and the caregivers around who are watching them must have, the red flags early enough for intervention. I mean, a 28 or 24 kg body weight for an adult 18-year-old is something which doesn't happen overnight. So the signs and the red flags are much visible much earlier, and the intervention should have happened. The support systems should have been initiated much earlier. So this is very sad that we have led to a situation going out of control, and waiting for something so drastic to happen. So, and the therapies for these are, we do have very good counselors, and we understand this situation much more than ever before. We have nutritionists. So it's basically a teamwork, and that needs to be initiated from the parent side and from the people who are around, who are watching the individual. So I think this is very sad, and should not happen and should not have happened.
Very important insights and tips there. Miss Bhubaneshwari, India is facing a very, unique sort of challenge because we have a large number of people who have undernutrition as well as those who are, in the category of overnutrition. There is a obesity challenge that we are facing right now also. In this context, when somebody, for instance, has to lose weight, what are the key principles of a balanced and healthy diet that one should keep in mind?
Okay, for me, actually, the key principles of a balanced diet. Before I go into that, as a dietitian, I always tell dieting doesn't mean like you are deprived of any foods, or rather you totally avoid certain foods. This is no, this is yes. There's no such food when it comes to dieting. For me, dieting is something like you enjoy doing it without feeling guilty. That's very, very important. Means you enjoy every bite of the food that you're taking it. So on that principle, when I say balanced diet, for me first concept is a healthy plate that I always tell. when I say healthy plate, it is like, the plate what we are eating right now. I usually tell change the plate. I mean, they change the position of the plate. What we eat in maximum should always be on the other side minimum, and what we are eating in minimum should be always be on the maximum. So in light of that, I would tell you like it is like half of the plate should always be vegetables. Not that you need to make drastic changes just because the dietitian said okay, if I eat vegetable doesn't mean I eat only vegetable, I'll not eat the carbs. You need a balanced one. So vegetable goes first, in the sense fiber goes first, then you have some protein, and then last you have the carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are essential. It is not like I avoid carbohydrates totally and I'm not going to take that because it is going to spike my sugars or it's going to give me weight gain and nothing of that sort. You need a minimum amount of carbohydrate that you need to take in. So first and foremost is the healthy plate that everyone should keep in mind. The small change that we make it on daily diet. Like for example, if I'm going to tell as a breakfast menu, okay, I'm taking an idli for breakfast. Being a South Indian, obviously from South, I would prefer idli for my breakfast. So before I take an idli, I make a change of vegetable salad. I'll have a cup of cucumber and sprouts, and then I go for my idli. So the second principle is the portion size. So what portion is required that I make seek the help of the dietitian, and I try to maintain that portion size. So that is my second key point. And third is a variety of foods. Just because someone said oats is very good for health, people start taking oats porridge in the morning, oats upma in the afternoon, and oats dosa in the night. I've seen people doing that. So it is not like you oversize one portion of food because just because it is good. It is like you take variety of foods with whole grains as the concept and not much polishing involved. That is also very very important. So these are the things that I would always keep in mind when it comes to balance diet. And second is my cues that I need to take it from my body. Cues in the sense, what my body requires. Like for example, there are certain times like our hunger time is at the maximum. So I need to find out what my body like. For example, I've been fasting throughout the day. So when I'm breaking my fast, obviously I will feel more hungry. So I need to take the calories, split the calories accordingly. Or sometimes it just so happens like I've gone in the summer outside and I'm fully dehydrated. When I'm coming home, I'll have that quench for water. So I need to take water. So take the cues which the body tells you to do it. That balancing is very, very important. And obviously, hydration, now that we are getting into summer, we need to have a very good hydration. And then last and foremost, it's very important is sustainable changes. People go into unsustainable changes like what ma'am was telling, doesn't happen overnight. There are so many Googles and there are so many YouTube influencers who keep telling like, do this brings you weight loss, take this brings you weight loss. So what my body requires, what it is going to be sustained for over a period of time, which I'm able to follow it or not, that I need to actually analyze and then do it. Otherwise it's not going to give me the goals that I need to go in for a healthy eating. So one, variety of foods. Second, the balanced nutrition. Third, hydration. Fourth is important one is physical activity and sleep. This is very very important. These are the four things when it comes to diet.
Yeah, yeah, very important messages there. Yeah, you pointed out very rightly that change the way you have your platter, have vegetables, fruits in larger amounts as compared to carbs you take, but at the same time focus that ensure that you have all the food groups as well every day, because you can't just do without carbs completely. Also introduce diversity in your food. Very important messages there. Now, Miss Khosla, you must be seeing a lot of patients, and we keep seeing these now. As Miss Bhubaneshwari was mentioning, there are a lot of these so-called health influencers and nutrition influencers who keep telling you all sort of things. We have WhatsApp and Insta and everyone telling us what to do to lose weight. So, what are the common misconceptions that you see in your patients in particular?
See, one really needs to guard against this one size fits all approach. There is so much information, it's an infodemic, I call it, with especially respect to diet and weight loss. And every other reel that you see is about belly fat melting away in few weeks, do this and do that. And it's all about hacking something or the other all the time, and then you have your own family and friends who have been through some dietitian and some diet and done whatever and got some dramatic results, and therefore so maybe this is more attractive than. And it's really become, I call it a circus. It just, it's amusing to see how extreme people can go and how bizarre sometimes these dietary trends can be, and they are dangerous. So I think the time is to really understand that diets need to be customized to individuals. This one blanket approach of cutting carbs for everybody, or going on a high fat and a high protein diet, or a fast, or whatever it be, has to be according to individual needs. And today the issue of food intolerance has become so large, that the people are reacting to foods like gluten and dairy and other foods as well sometimes. And so who is a candidate for that and who is not? So it has to be done in a very personalized and customized fashion. So that is a very, very strong message for anyone who's listening about weight loss. Your body is different and needs to be handled differently. And sometimes you just need to, get tests done. You just don't keep guessing. Maybe I'm not tolerating something, so go and get yourself tested. And so that is also important. And the crucial thing is, don't do it at the cost of your health and fitness and nutrition. Just ensure that whatever you do will not deplete you, and if you do something, make sure your supplements and vitamins and nutritional foods are there in adequate quantities. So therefore professional help is something which will help most people in this space. While it's not possible for everybody, guidelines are there, but when things are not working out, it is a red flag that something more needs to be done, and you may be just reacting to something or need something, a different approach, a course correction. So and the issue of sustainability, like Bhubaneshwari mentioned, because diets really are only as good as you do them. They are not permanent fixes for any any condition, be it especially weight loss. So it has to be looked at also. The thought process has to change. It has to become a way of life. It can't be a goalpost approach that I ran and I touched my target and I'm done. You can never be done. So it has to be done on a daily basis. Mindfulness has to become a part of your DNA. You have to have healthy eating behaviors and practices. The simple things like walking instead of taking a lift, or climbing stairs wherever possible, having a standing desk, sitting less. So those healthy eating behaviors, healthy practices need to be a part of your change. And so only then will you be able to make your weight loss journey a success and a lifetime success. Otherwise, it's just, okay, I lost 20 kgs and then what? I gained 25 more. So,
Yeah.
and that is really counterproductive, because your metabolic rate drops, and each time you make another attempt, you gain more because your metabolic rate is dropping each time. So this weight cycling and yo-yo weight, this thing has to stop, and people need to take weight loss as a much more serious issue and avoid extremes. When it's not happening, it's time to seek professional help.
Thank you so much for that answer. Ms. Bhubaneshwari, Ms. Khosla also just mentioned about, these extreme diets and how they not really work for all. But in some cases, at least, these things called keto diet, for instance, or vegans, or intermittent fasting. What are your thoughts about intermittent fastings also? And in these kind of fads, what do you think about them? Do they work in case of some people?
See, the thing that I would always tell, I categorize all these keto diets or whatever Mediterranean, vegan diet that we follow into something called a fat diet, obviously. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just searching the internet, for a longer period of time. What does fad mean? I mean, everyone calls fat diet, fat diet. Then I understood, okay, fad is something like the practice that we follow with, I mean, over a period of time with exaggerated zeal. So when I say exaggerated zeal, it is not going to give me, it is going to give me results immediately. But when I see it for a very longer period of time, I do not find any scientific evidence that it is working for over a longer period of time. Like what ma'am was saying, it works for some, it doesn't work for some. So that thing has to be actually followed. Like for example, I'm telling you, if I'm following a ketogenic diet, so ketogenic diet basic principle is like 5 to 10% of carbs and 14 to 20% from protein and 65 to 80% of fat. That is how the principle basic principle goes. So initially, yes, I would have a weight loss because of the glucose that's going to be broken down from fats, all that, and I'm going to get into the scientific way of doing it. But what happens? Studies which has said that the ketogenic diet do increase the LDL and other lipid parameters, though my blood sugars are coming under control. Similarly, for example, intermittent fasting diet, yes, it also helps me to reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. But over a period of time, it also increases the free fatty acids. So what is it? There is no proper scientific evidence for a longer period of time when I follow how it is going to help me. That is a questionable answer which I'm yet to find out. So more research is actually needed. Similarly, vegan diet, if you see, it gives me micronutrient deficiencies, and there are so many types of vegan diet people follow. Like, for example, they avoid only dairy and they take the rest of the things. And then there's a vegan diet where they avoid dairy, egg, and then they take the rest of the diet. And somewhere one vegetable and the rest of the eggs, meat products, everything is avoided. So these are diets which is going to give me a short-term weight loss. But is it sustainable? Will I be able to follow keto diet for the rest of my life? Will I be able to follow the intermittent fasting diet for the rest of my life? That I do not think many would have done it. So on basis of this, probably for a shorter period, yes. For example, if I'm based on the medical conditions I'm talking about, if I'm not a diabetic, if I'm a normal person, if I want to lose weight, I seek the medical professionals, and then I do it for a very shorter period of time to achieve my goal. But after which I need to get back to my older habits with balanced eating and all that. Again, like what ma'am was saying, without when it is getting into extremes, like people are going crazy for weight loss. Like sometimes they follow the keto diet, they see the weight loss and they go crazy, they start restricting. I mean, modified keto they're going for. They don't realize what will be the ill effects of doing it. I am avoiding certain nutrients, I am not taking this. So it all matters. Like, you should be under the professional advice of a certified dietitians to plan your diet and then take it accordingly. But there is no scientific evidence for over a longer period of time that I followed this diet and then I had a good weight loss, or my parameters was this. All the studies that they have done till now, okay, it was for a shorter period of time, say 8 weeks, 24 weeks. But over a period of 5 years, 6 years, we do not have any, I mean, not so much of research is done under these diet. So if it is done and if it is claiming to be good, we might consider. But for me, balanced diet with regular physical activity is the key to weight loss.
Yeah, very important points there, and I'm sure our viewers would be benefiting immensely from them, from these advices. Also, since we have heard a lot about developing sustainable healthy eating habits, I would really be glad if both of you could please give us some pointers. 5 habits each you think are, the key points that people should keep in mind if they want to go for habits which are healthy and sustainable when it comes to diet and nutrition. Miss Khosla, would you like to start on this?
Yeah, more than the five things, I would just like to elaborate on what is ultimately then a good diet for weight loss. And it's very nice to talk about these things, but what are we really aiming for, and what really brings results is not calorie counting for sure, is not a low fat diet for sure. And what we really need to look at is a gut friendly diet and an anti inflammatory diet. An anti inflammatory diet is something which is completely in aligned to or in sync with what we talked about as a Mediterranean diet, which
Mm-hmm.
is loaded with vegetables and fruits and good fats and antioxidants and adequate protein. We do not have to get over concerned about proteins and protein supplements, just adequate protein, which we are used to having, whether it's animal or plant, and something which supports our gut microbiome. And for that, we also need to customize the diet. Again, that word is coming back on the
Mhm.
issue of certain grains are inflammatory, certain people react to dairy, it becomes inflammatory. So we need to understand what are the triggers for inflammation for each individual and address those. And that is squarely the only way one can handle weight on a long term basis, along with understanding that it's not only what you eat, it's about how much you eat and how you eat it and when you eat it. So a
Yes.
lot of people are, really talking about intermittent fasting as the most easy and the most sort of successful way of sustainable weight loss. But even that, I have patients who will not lose weight even if they are doing intermittent fasting because they're eating at the wrong hours or they're eating the wrong foods. So, what you're eating is very important, even if you're fasting, and how much you're eating and what time you're eating. The same food eaten at the wrong time against your circadian rhythm body clock will be counterproductive. You will not get the results. Well,
When
if
you
you do
say wrong time, could you please, quickly tell
the
us what
body,
does right time mean?
yes, so the circadian rhythm is our body clock, and really it's meant to be most efficient in terms of its digestive capacity in the early hours of the day. And up to 6 7 o'clock is really a good time to eat most of your food.
So have
And
your
post
dinner by 7 o'clock then, and don't eat anything after that. That's the good idea.
yeah, and if you really do need to eat post seven, then it has to be foods which are very easy to digest. Don't strain your body, your system, at a time when it's not ready for it. It's not wanting it, and if it does, I mean, if you do it and you insist on eating late, then you be sure that you will be getting toxic waste accumulated, and obviously that will turn into inflammation and fat deposition. So eat very light. If you have to eat post seven, eat most of the food before that or by 7 7:30. Again, one size doesn't fit all. There would be some people who may need even more customizing, but yes, by and large these are very time tested and scientifically validated concepts. And I think there cannot be anything simpler than that. If you really want me to give you 5 tips, I would put them as the 5 P's, as I put them in my book, Eating at Work. And the first P is really about planning. There is no way that you will be mindful about your food and make the right choices and successfully manage your food without thinking about it in the day before you start your day, or maybe at the previous day. So just don't land up in a situation and say, oh, I didn't get the right food, so I ate wrong. You have to plan your food just the way you plan your timings with respect to meetings and finances and everything else. Second P is about peak hunger time. Know your body. Some people eat a breakfast, a hearty breakfast. Some people are not hungry for breakfast. So, and there's nothing etched in stone that if you're not hungry in the morning, you have to eat. So, if your peak hunger time is 12 or 1, you can start eating at 12 and 1. You don't have to stuff that breakfast in because somebody said it was important. And sometimes it's 4 to 6 or 7. Some people, and we do not plan that time. Most people go wrong at that time. They eat junk, they eat or they order in because they haven't planned that time. So eat your dinner at 5, 6, 7. It doesn't matter, if it's not dinner time for the rest of the world, but you have to do what you have to do. So address those times. If you miss those peak hunger times, you eat much more later. So it's important to know your body. And then proteins at least twice a day. For most people, proteins can be, like I said earlier, plant protein. It could be beans and lentils and dals, or it could just be eggs, fish, chicken, or whatever else. So at least two protein centric meals in a day, paired with vegetables or something alkaline, because proteins are acidic. So pair some vegetables or fruits with your proteins. And lastly, it is protective foods. That means dedicate one meal to, in our language, it's protective foods. Bhubaneshwari will understand that when I say that it's vegetables or fruits or salads or sprouts or probiotics and prebiotics or a combination of all that. So essentially, it could be just a soup and salad at one point. It could just be a fruit based meal. It could be just a sprout based meal, or it could just be a smoothie. So, one meal dedicated to protective foods. the superfoods, so to say. So that would ensure that you get all the nutrients your body needs, the fiber and the gut friendly concoction, whatever you'd like to call it. So it's very simple, and it is mentioned in my book, Eating at Work, and I think it can't get simpler than that. Lastly, the grains. I haven't addressed that. Basically, all the carbs which people are scared of having has to be according to your requirements. You want to have them in 2 meals, in 3 meals, or in no meal. It can depend on who you are, and the selection of the carbs. Whether you're eating rice or millets or anything else has to be according to your body type. And if you just fix this much, I think you're good to go.
Yeah, very important points and very doable as well. I'm sure our viewers can judge for themselves what works for them out of these things that you mentioned. Miss Bhubaneshwari, your last thoughts on, what do you think
Yeah.
are really
Before I just let her speak, I missed out on protective foods is hydration. We miss out on
yeah,
hydration.
yeah.
So
Please.
just take enough water and liquids.
Again, when it comes to water, one quick question, because we have known all our lives, for instance, 6 to 8 glasses, but now we also hear that it not be the one size fit all thing in case of water as well, like it happens in case of.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so how do you know that how much water is good for me, good enough for me?
So I think a very good indicator for anyone is to watch adequate urine passage along with the color of the urine. So
Okay.
if you're passing urine adequately, it varies from season to season.
Hmm.
It will increase in the humid weather and decrease in the hot weather. But make sure that your color of the urine is light, and the minute it gets darker, it's a red flag that you're not drinking enough.
Yeah. Miss Bhubaneshwari, you want to add to what ma'am has just
Yes,
said already?
almost like ma'am has summarized everything that I needed to tell. And few things that I'm going to make is one, always make small changes in daily life diet. Okay, like for example, if I want to tell you, like we are so used to having white rice for our lunch, most of us, like South Indians, and so what I would suggest you is smaller changes, like instead of white rice I'm shifting to brown rice. We also had a study done in our MDRF which claimed that brown rice, each intake of brown rice actually improved my HbA1c as well as the good cholesterol in our blood. So smaller changes, what I can do to make it have a very good diet. So small changes first. What refined grains I'm taking, I'll make it into whole grains and then see for my gut, and then I'll take it wisely. The second thing that I would always tell is moderation is the key. Like I was telling you before, just because someone tells me this is good for health, I know all my menus are based on that. No, it is like always, I need to include. That is one. Third thing that I would tell you is be patient and persistent. That's very important. There are setbacks, like I go for wedding, I'm going for party. See, just because I am on dieting, I'm going, when I'm going with a gang, I can tell, no, 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 I'm on dieting, I will not take this. No, that doesn't look good. So I indulge but reduce my portion size of indulging. So how can I do that? Is the meal sequence that I follow. I first take my fiber, next protein, I fill three-fourth of my stomach with that. Then last I go in for carb, which is not going to give me much of my weight gain. So be patient. It is okay to have a setback, but still I am doing it. And most of the time, of course, there are difficulties in doing this, but I would always tell them to go in for home cooked meals, because we will be able to control everything of what we have to do in that particular menu, except for people who are working outside the home and they are like in the PGs and such cases. I make small changes in their daily diet which they can follow it, and like they don't indulge much outside food on that. So mostly prepare home cooked food, that will always do good. And whenever you're having, like what mama was telling, like protein is the key. So always take protein at least twice a day, like what she was telling. Or whenever I'm feeling hungry, instead of going for a carb, I go in for a protein. That doesn't give me again weight gain of that sort. And last but not the least, I'd always tell them, have a good sleep, because sleep is the one which will alter your metabolic hormones. your hunger pang might increase, or sometimes on stress also it might increase. So you need to take cues from your body. Why are you eating more? What is the trigger that is making me eating more, or what is the trigger which is not making me eating more? No, I'm talking about weight loss as well as weight gain. So take cues from the body. That is one we have to always think and then analyze. And finding healthy alternatives, like for example, sometimes during the hormonal menstrual time, for girls, they have a hunger pang for the sweet. So many of the girls do have. So what I can take instead of the sweet, I can go in for a handful of cashew nuts also. I can take it. Again, we had a study on cashew nuts also telling that it is not going to increase your fats, but it is a good source of protein. So we plan it and then we do it accordingly. So more than everything, if at all you want to have a weight loss and then you're really seeking a journey for weight loss, first seek a certified dietitian and the physician, and then the team of people like what ma'am was mentioning, rather than going in googling and finding a diet chart. Someone, it worked out for them and it is not working out for me. So diet plus exercise plus good sleep, this is the key factor.
Valuable insights there. With that, we wrap up this conversation. Really appreciate that both of you could take out time and join us for the chat. Thank you so much, Ms. Khosla
Thank
Thank
and
you.
you.
Ms. Bhubaneshwari.
Thank you.
Thanks.